Hello, KCI. It's Kate, and I am so excited to introduce you to Sue Thotz, who works on the team for Common Sense Education. And Sue, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us the relationship you have with the Common Sense Education games and interactives?
Excellent. So, as Kate said, my name is Sue, and I'm in Southern California. I'm based here in Los Angeles, and I work on the outreach team for Common Sense Education. So, my job is to work with districts and work with county offices and schools that are here in Southern California to implement a lot of the resources that we have at Common Sense, including our digital citizenship curriculum, as well as these games and interactives. So I end up going out and talking to a lot of folks about what these games do and how they can implement them in their districts and in their classrooms.
And I have to say that I was a fangirl of these games before I even got a chance to work with Sue, and so it's a neat way to come full circle because I feel like they really help me as a classroom teacher and as a coach to get people to understand that there are so many different ways that you can have this conversation, and these games and interactives are another way to do it. So go ahead and tell us how these games and interactives have diversified instruction for the teachers and the schools that you've had the opportunity to work with.
So traditionally, we had provided common sense curriculum that was in the form of a regular lesson plan that a teacher would use and provide that direct instruction and lead activities. But we decided to come up with some of these games to provide a different way to approach digital citizenship. Part of it is that these games provide an immersive experience. Where students are, they're making themselves part of the story of the game, and they're learning through that immersive experience as opposed to doing it in a traditional classroom, learning by hearing the stories from their teacher or hearing conversations from their fellow students. This just provides a different methodology of teaching and learning that maybe will work really well with some students. And so as a type of blended experience, I think would work really well. I think in a lot of classrooms where you have the technology capability to be able to do both, provide these traditional lessons as well as provide these game-based experiences.
Okay, so before we started recording, you had mentioned the impact of UDL, Universal Design for Learning. So do you want to talk a bit more about kind of the relationship between UDL and the work that you guys are doing?
So I've been thinking a lot about UDL for the past couple of years and thinking about different ways to reach our kids. And so if I provide, instruction in one way and then I'm able to reach a certain percentage of my students, how can I diversify my instruction so that I am not only providing it in this way, but also these four other ways at the same time, all kind of getting at the same concept? Because with digital citizenship, it's not so much about knowledge and skills. I mean, that's definitely part of it, but it's also about changing behaviors.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to shifting that culture and affecting those behaviors, having students practice within the realm of a game as opposed to practicing face-to-face with you and having a conversation as a teacher or face-to-face with their peers, it just provides a different dimension that might touch students in a different way and be as effective as we want it to be.
And that's why I'm so glad we're chatting and that this is going to be the first playtime opportunity for the students in this class, because I really feel like I have so much trust in like the more traditional curriculum that Common Sense puts out, but then to also see that there's these interactives and these games that are available for kids to really show their learning and feel and build that empathy and experience it in that safe place. It's like, it's the whole point of why I think someone's taking this class, is to actually start to find answers to the questions of how do I get my kids to really care, to really understand, to really experience and make decisions before it's, life or death, God forbid,
And I think it's really easy. Like you as a teacher do not have to have a lot of setup. These do not have any back end. It's just easy for kids to go on and have that experience, and then you follow up with some guided process, right, and reflection about that experience. And so that is a most essential part. Everybody, make sure that you're not just sending your kids to play this game and saying, okay, I taught digital citizenship, we're all done, right? It's not just about that game experience. It's about the wraparound activities that students will do to help process and reflect and think about what that activity means to them in their lives. And so there are wrap-up activities that go along with each game so that you as a teacher can guide them through a process of reflection and have them think about the way that game and the experience they just had impacts their own life.
Totally. And so you mentioned the power of reflection and really the necessity of reflection to really make this come full circle. And the power of immersing our students into an environment that looks and feels kind of familiar, but is a safe place for them to take those risks, and then in turn building the empathy. And so I guess in my mind, my question for you is, where have you seen, like, what area have you seen the most impact with these games? Maybe even a case study of a teacher or a district that you've worked with where you're like, wow, they really, like, this is a solid example of how they've used these resources to really wrap things around with their learners. Can you think of anything? That's a pop question, by the way. I know we didn't prep this one, so put you on the spot.
I think of teachers, when I was piloting these resources, when I was first kind of going into classrooms and seeing what teachers were doing with these so that we could make these lessons better. This was when I was in Chicago, and this was when we were doing digital passport. I would go in, and part of what was so exciting was, there was not a whole lot of excitement about digital citizenship. I will tell you that. Like, when you tell kids we're going to be doing a digital citizenship lesson today, right? It was not the most exciting thing in the whole world. But when you say, we're going to be playing this game today about what multitasking means, right? And how multitasking affects your life. Playing a game is definitely a hook, right? For sure. Being on a computer playing a game. And then it's so engaging and so fun. And then, like, they played a video before it that talks about why we should not be multitasking. Kids got to do this game and have this experience. And then it was like the gateway to having the conversation about why you should not have your phone, and why should you not be listening to music as you are texting and trying to cross the street at the same time, right? Why is that a bad thing? Just watched this chicken get pummeled, and where you're trying to do too many things at one time, and you could see that was a bad experience. So for this particular teacher, seeing the spark kind of come in and start the conversation and get them rolling with the concept was really powerful.
Love it. And so that's a really good reminder to all of us that game-based learning is not about 24/7 games in play. It's really about finding a natural, purposeful fit for games to push your curriculum and your learning forward and change behaviors, right? I think it's a bigger picture than just like, I'm just going to have games all the time. So, okay, to wrap up, what is your one tip for someone who is looking to integrate games in their classroom, regardless of like common sense games or whatever? But since you have all this experience with it, what would be one tip?
So I guess one of the things that I would encourage people to do is, this is a very simple way to just enter into the world of games is by using some of these. And so I would, if I was teaching digital citizenship as a teacher in my classroom, because we have kids who use tech, I would start with, with a lesson and then, follow up with that game as a way to kind of solidify and really kind of like, how do we make sure that we are putting into practice the things that we've learned? Or the other thing that I really like about Digital Compass, which is the middle school game, is it's a way to try out making bad decisions. You're encouraged to make poor decisions within the realm of this game and kind of see the consequences, both good and bad, of the things that they are doing in their digital world. And so it's kind of like the you hear the lesson, you talk about it, and then maybe you put it all into practice and see what happens when you do these things. And I think that whole experience all around will really give teachers and students a lift for their culture of how to use technology well, and a great way to set a foundation and start that conversation.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. And KCI peeps, you will be invited to actually get down into those games. When you click on the link, you'll see games and interactives, which includes the high school digital bites, right, Sue? And that's slightly different. The Digital Compass and Digital Passport are the ones that we've really been referring to, but feel free to dive into Bites if that's intriguing to you. You certainly can, but we want to get your hands all sorts of dirty with these games and get you thinking about how you might actually implement them, or just, bring them to your community in some way. So thank you, Sue, so much, and we'll see everybody later.